let me introduce somebody who I have grown to adore and love and get to know pretty well over the past 6 or 8 months. Dr. Annette Copeland, who helps women around the world get off that yo-yo dieting pattern and lose weight for real. Annette is a single mother who raised her children, put them through school, and put herself through school to become a naturopathic doctor and help heal people around the world. So Dr. Annette, thank you for being here, and tell us a little bit about your story. And we have a really fun story of how we met and
oh my gosh,
your life.
So I was a teen mom. I had my daughter at 16. And everybody thought I was going to be a statistic, right? I remember being in the hospital having her, and one of the nurses told me that there's a statistic that says if you have a child at 16, you'll have another one by 18. And I remember looking her straight in the face and saying, I am not a statistic. Ooh. And that was like, boom. That was my woo moment when I was 16.
That is power right there.
I was like, don't you dare pigeonhole me into some statistic. How rude. But yeah, I got married at 16. I got divorced at 18. And I spent the next 36 years basically raising my daughter mostly by myself. Her dad was in the picture on and off. And unfortunately, he's passed away now. So it's just me and her. And I'm really glad that they had an opportunity to like get their relationship back on track before he passed away. It's really sad that happened, but it's also good that happened because she has to go back on. But raising a child, working a very hectic, busy, crazy job, and going to school at the same time, it was crazy trying to do all of those things. And I actually worked myself in the ground. I lost my health around the age of 43-ish. I was very, very ill. I had complete adrenal burnout, not adrenal fatigue, adrenal burnout. I was completely exhausted. Ended up.
Hey, do you want to tell us a little bit about what that is? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who've heard that.
Yeah.
And they might not know what it means.
So,
and this is going to lead into some of the work that you do now, right?
Yes. Yes. It's why I have the passion to do the things that I do. So I was working like 60 to 80 hours a week. I was traveling every weekend. I was burning the candle at both ends.
Superwoman.
Right. And because of some things we'll touch on later in this conversation, I was back to zero again for the umpteenth time, like the 11th time in my life. I was starting over and I was working like a dog. And I loved my job. I loved the people. I was traveling all over, but I was literally burning the candle at both ends. And it was exhilarating at first. And I had all this energy and I could go on 5 hours of sleep and I was doing the things. And I would always tell everybody, I'm the fixer of all things broken. If you have a problem, you let me know and I will take care of it. Trauma response.
Right. I remember when we were working together early on and you were telling me about how you were the playground superhero. Like you were there saving all those kids who were being bullied. And I'm sure a lot of our watchers, viewers can relate to that. Like, oh, I can solve the problems. And
yeah. And I lived my whole life that way. And I literally worked myself so adrenal fatigue is when you have all of that energy and you're just going and you can get it all done. And then you kind of start to crash. But adrenal burnout is when your cortisol levels have been high for a really long time. And then all of a sudden your body just says, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And you just have zero energy, like zero energy. You can't function. You can't think. You gain weight if you just look at food, like.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to ask you, like, what are some early signs of adrenal burnout? Because I feel like it's something that sneaks up on us.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people don't recognize it until something happens in their life. That's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
What are some things that people can look out for?
Well, if you get sick once a month, usually like around the time you have your cycle, Or if you
Mhm.
catch every single illness that goes around, like if your friend has a sinus infection, suddenly you have a sinus infection. If
Mm.
somebody gets the common cold, you don't even have to be near them. You've got the common cold. I
Mm.
literally would be sick once a month for a week or two. And then
Mhm.
I would end up on antibiotics for 2 weeks. And then I would be off antibiotics for 2 weeks and then back on antibiotics for 2 weeks. It was a cycle.
Wow.
I
Mhm.
literally can't believe that a doctor allowed me to live that life. But that was part
Wow.
of the reason for my adrenal
Mhm.
issues. Um,
Mhm.
wrecked my gut health.
Mhm.
And because I was burning the candle at both ends and I wasn't getting enough sleep, my cortisol levels were just going higher and higher and higher, which also messes with your short-term memory. It
Mhm.
messes with your ability to handle stress.
Mhm.
You get sick all the time. If you get a wound, you build huge scar tissue. It's crazy. Like you make
Mm.
scars and the wounds take forever to heal. It's because
Wow.
the and my thyroid also went with my adrenals. So the two organs that basically run your metabolism and your hormones were exhausted.
Wow.
And I was exhausted. I was laying on the couch. I was eating bad food because I didn't have the energy to make good food.
Right.
So when people tell me I don't have the energy to do the things that it takes to be healthy, I've
Mhm.
been there. I
Yeah.
understand what that's like.
Mhm.
And the things that you do to beat yourself up while you're doing all of that. So your mood is bad, your energy
Yes.
is bad. And then you just start like, so I would wake up in the morning, my alarm clock would go off. I would hit the snooze button and then I would lay there and cry because I was
Oh.
exhausted. I couldn't get out of bed.
Wow.
And then I would literally be laying in bed going, get up,
Mhm.
Annette, get up. I would yell at myself to get myself out of bed in the morning. What a way
Oh
to
my
start
gosh.
the day.
Right? Yeah, right?
And then I would
Mhm.
drag myself to the shower and pray that the shower would wake me up enough to go about my day.
Mhm.
And when I started gaining weight, because the cortisol had messed up my blood sugar balance and my female hormones, and I started gaining weight, I was like, I have to exercise. Exercising when your adrenals are burnt out is not only impossible, but it's not really recommended.
Mm.
But here I would
Counterproductive,
go
huh?
outside and I'd be like, okay, I'm going for a mile walk. And I'd get to the end of my front steps and then I'd be like, yeah, maybe not today. And I would turn
Mhm.
around and go back in the house and climb in bed for another hour. And then I would make myself get up and go to work. I was
Mm.
snappy. I was grumpy. I felt like, I really felt like there was no way out. Like I was trapped in this
Mhm.
life and I was getting old. I was 40 something.
Mhm.
That's not old. And I just had to come to terms with the fact that that's how life was going to be. And
Oh,
I
right?
was just
Wow.
like, I just can't. And then one day I was like, okay, we got to figure this out. I fell asleep sitting up in a seminar. My boss was sitting next to me and she was like, are you okay? And I was like, honestly, I'm not.
Oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
was that like your wake up call?
It was my wake up call for sure. We did a bunch of testing and that's when we found the adrenal burnout, but it took us 3 more years after that to figure out that I had Hashimoto's thyroid. And who
Mhm.
knows how long I had that. I may have had
Mhm.
that for years.
Mhm.
But it all came to a head because I had worked myself into a
Right.
hole. And part of the reason I did that, like I mentioned earlier, the whole trauma response
Mhm.
is I was keeping myself busy because I thought it was giving me a happy life. I was busy, I was successful, I was the person that everyone
Oh,
counted on and I
wow.
was living the best life in
On the
public.
surface, on the surface.
Right. But
Yeah.
inside, I was keeping myself busy, but I wasn't really living. I wasn't going through life. I was so busy that I wasn't going through
So
anything.
you were operating on the hormones of stress
Mhm.
and which were constantly being released to keep you going,
Right.
which causes that fatigue and then burnout.
Right.
And it sounds like you weren't even present for your life.
No. Well, and I
And
was
that's
working
what
so
we
much. I
do is,
missed every wedding, every birthday, every bonfire
wow.
party, everything. I missed it all. all the
Wow.
concerts that my friends were going to. And when I finally was like, I can't work this much anymore, I didn't have the energy to go do those things. So my friends stopped calling. They just gave up on me. They were like, she's too busy. She's probably not even home. She's traveling. She's out of town. They stopped asking me to do things because my answer was always no. So I
Right.
really went from living this full, busy, fun life to literally laying on the couch and thinking, what happened?
Yeah.
Now I gain weight when I look at food. I don't have the energy to work out or exercise. And I wasn't really living a very good life. It was really sad.
When was that about? Like, how long ago was that?
I was 45 when I really tanked out.
Mm-hmm.
It was, well, yeah,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I was 45. It was the year I turned 46.
Okay.
So I was like 45 and a half when things really, really fell apart.
Yeah.
And I was still on birth control pills because my hormones were so messed up that every time I tried to go off the birth control pill, I would literally turn into a psycho. Like my doctor was like, you might have to stay on these till you go into menopause. And I was at 45 and I was like, are you sure that I have to keep taking these things? And then they told me that the birth control pills that I was taking were going off the market and they were going to have to change me to a different brand. And I knew from experience that that was not going to be fun for me.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? The last time we tried to change this, I really, really struggled emotionally. And the people I worked with really struggled emotionally because I was mean.
Oh my gosh.
Let's
I have a hard time believing that about you, knowing the way that I know you now.
Sometimes you just don't have control over it.
Right.
So I stopped taking my birth control pills and immediately went into menopause. And I had a few hot flashes, but I found I had a test ran, which I like to do diagnostic testing. I don't like to just throw things at people. I had a test ran and found out that my testosterone was low, as well as all my other hormones, because I was in menopause. So I started taking something to help balance out those hormones. And I never have hot flashes or anything. So I went through menopause slick as a whistle, whereas I was terrified that I was going to have one of those horrible, like strangle people kind of menopauses, but I didn't. And that was the beginning of me getting my life back. It was really awesome, actually.
And so at what point did you, well, where did that lead you?
Well, I started dating again. And because I didn't have the tools to properly manage that, I ended up in a series of not so fantastic relationships that left me, everyone left me deeper in a hole. And I ended up in a situation where I was going through a horrible divorce and I didn't have the emotional tools to deal with the situation that I was in. But I knew innately that I could not battle this particular fight with the tools that I had from the past. I knew that I needed to change the way I was doing things. I needed to change how my thought process were. I needed to figure out why I kept attracting that sort of a relationship into my life. And I knew that, you know, when you have something that God wants you to fix, he keeps giving it back to you until you figure it out. And in my situation, every time it was a harder lesson. And I was like, okay, I have got to figure out what it is that I'm missing. What am I missing? What am
There was a pattern there.
Right. How do I stop this from ever happening again? And I was in a deep, dark pit of despair and I wasn't sleeping. I was not eating. I had gained like 30 pounds through the course of a 3-year marriage. And I wasn't losing the weight. I was holding on to it. Like, I didn't want to be seen by anyone. And this is the coolest part is I had done all kinds of other things. And one day I saw a video of Gina. She was talking about boundaries on Facebook, and I had never seen Gina before in my life. I didn't know who she was. And I was like, boundaries. I've heard that word before. I need boundaries.
What's a boundary?
I watched your video, and then a few minutes later, I was like, what else does she have? So I'm like Googling Gina Brogan, and I'm like trying to find you. And I'm like, your Instagram at the time, you had one, but it had very little stuff on there. And I'm like, I got to find her. So I'm like on YouTube, and finally I found your Facebook group, and I joined your Facebook group, and I just started consuming all of the content that you created. And I fell in love with the way you like looked at things, and you just have an art about you, and you can take a situation, like if somebody's thinking like spinning out of control, which is what I was doing most of the time, and you can just like bring calm to the situation. And I was like, I have to find this woman. So I just sent you a message, and I was like, hey, I just watched a bunch of your videos, and we started talking, and I was chasing her with my credit card. Like, I don't really have very much money right now, but I have to figure out how to work with you. And I mean, we figured it out. We made it work. And
we figured it out.
The most amazing. This year working with you has been one of the most amazing years of my life.
Well, your transformation has been absolutely spectacular to watch. Like just this blossoming flower that we knew in one of our very first conversations. You're like, I know there's something big in me, because you just gave me a little bit about like your life and your journey, and how this last relationship / marriage really dimmed your light and turned you into a fearful person.
Yeah.
And like, look at you now.
Yeah. I would say fear was my biggest
dominating thought. Yeah. And I feel like that is the case with most people who have come out of or are still in highly toxic codependent relationships. And because they actually believe the things said about them and done to them, and that they deserve it. And so worthiness is one of the things that we work on. But so I mean, your transformation has been absolutely amazing and really, really delightful to participate in and watch. And it's really been amazing also to watch you go back to that light, and what got you into naturopathic medicine, what got you to helping people, and how you are helping people now, which is what's really exciting, because now you're back. Annette is back.
I'm like not back. I'm Annette 2.0.
You've evolved.
Right? I'll never be the person I was before. But
nice. Right.
So happy to be a completely better version. And I now have boundaries. I have boundaries. I can
oh my gosh, your boundaries at work, your boundaries for your divorce, your boundaries socially,
I can say the word no and not feel like I have to explain myself. Somebody says, would you like to do this? I can just say, no, thank you. I don't need to go into a 10-minute dissertation on why it's not going to work for me. I just say, no, thank you.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
How freeing, right? Yes. And that ability to just be so clear opens up so much of your energy to be the creative person and to be the person you're here to be.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is why
I've known for 20 years that there's somebody in there that needs to get out. But I had, that baggage that was just weighing me down, and it wasn't allowing me to be the full version of myself because of the fear. I was afraid that someone would criticize me or that someone would call me out. And imposter syndrome is something that the first time I ever heard somebody say that, I was like, oh, imposter syndrome. I definitely have that. And then I was like, I don't know what that is. I'm going to go look it up. Is it like, I've got all the book smarts, right? And in honesty, the job that I had when I was working so much that I loved, but I was burning myself out at the same time, was a job working with a doctor who teaches chiropractors how to do internal medicine. So I was literally getting 12 hours every weekend of deep dive medical information, like diagnose and how to read blood work and how to recognize signs and symptoms and all of these things. And I was in the process of getting my naturopathic doctor degree.
Mm-hmm.
But I sat down a few weeks ago to figure out how many hours I have sat in seminars. And
Mm-hmm.
it's well over 200,000 hours that I have done
Wow.
where I've sat in a room and listened to someone explain to other people how to read blood work and how to see through the, the things that the little signs and symptoms that people have. And I forget sometimes the things that I know until I'm in a situation where somebody's asking me questions, and all of a sudden I'm just like, and I'm like,
Right.
I don't know where that just came from, but it's
You have a
that
whole
knowledge is
library.
there, and when
Yeah.
I need it, I can pull it out. But I mean, I love helping people figure out how to create a lifestyle that gives them a powerful ability to create something that works for them, not like
Mm-hmm.
bad dieting or
Customized. It's
exercise.
customized.
Yes.
Yes.
And helping them figure out. So I help people with things like, first of all, like I've had a couple of people chase me with their credit cards, first of all. So I love
Wait,
that.
and I want to, before we move on, because that's really powerful. And this
Yeah.
is the shift and the evolution of Annette is I'm not out on the playground searching for who needs my help, who can I save and rescue. Now you're in this different position of this is who I am, this is what I do, and you are magnetically attracting the people who need you,
Yeah.
who specifically want what you can do. So you're not draining yourself trying to save the world.
Right. For sure. And
You're
it's
helping
so
empower the
effortless. Like
people.
they find me and they're
Yeah.
like, I'm like, okay, let's get on a call and talk. And I'm like trying to pull some things out of them. And they're literally like, no, I already know I want to work with you. I just need to know what the choice is. And I'm like,
Right.
oh,
All right.
hold on
Then.
a second. I need to like, so then it's like, oh, all right then. Well, why don't you tell me what you had in mind? And then we'll figure it out from there. But I mean, that is such a shift from being afraid and feeling like an imposter to having people literally chasing me down and saying, I don't know how much it's going to cost to work with you, which is exactly what I said to you.
Yeah.
But there has got to be something. I need to be in your presence.
Right.
And
it's about energy, right?
yeah.
It's
And that's
energy.
what these people, that's exactly what they said.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that in itself is fantastic. And I love helping people figure out what's keeping them stuck. It's just a thing I love to do.
Right.
And
So let's
if
talk
you,
about your gift of
yeah,
connecting with people, developing this understanding of what their challenge is, and then combining that with your medical expertise and knowledge
yeah.
and how
So
that changes their
I
lives.
tend to attract women who have, first of all, they've gained and lost weight a bunch of times. So they already know they can lose the weight. They already,
Right.
they've
Yeah.
done multiple
And they
times.
know every diet out there.
Yes, they're experts at that part
Yeah.
of it. But
Mhm.
what they're not an expert at is why the weight keeps coming back or why they keep ending up in the same place after doing all the things. And, they reach their goals, but then they, a year, 6 months, 2 years later, they're right back where they were or worse than they were before. And there's a combination of things that cause that. I mean, it can be lifestyle. You did a fad diet, you lost all the weight, then you went back to the way you were before. It's also mental. You get into a mental space where you have the ability to do the things that it takes to lose the weight. And then you lose the weight and you think, I don't know, maybe I don't deserve this or whatever the reason is. There's many reasons.
Right. Yeah. There's lots of
Put the weight
reasons.
back on because you're not actually comfortable being that person. You're not comfortable in that space. And then there's also a side to it where, like with me, I was actually sick. And I was sick with two diseases that medical doctors typically don't recognize. Now, I'm not saying all, and I'm not slamming them. I'm just saying that
it's often overlooked.
Hashimoto's thyroiditis And adrenal fatigue or adrenal burnout are not typically something that's on the map when you go to get blood drawn or go to get any kind of testing done to find out what's wrong with you. It takes specific tests. You have to know what those tests are, and you have to know how to read them once you get them. So, and that's where my expertise falls in. I had about 5 years ago, I had a friend who was a friend of a friend, actually. She had been trying to lose weight forever and it wasn't working. And, you know, I sat down and had a conversation with her, and probably in about 10 minutes, I had a real good idea what the problem was. And she already knew that she had thyroid issues. So that wasn't a question, but the question was why? Why do you have thyroid issues? I was able to get to the bottom of that. I was able to help her get back on track. And she sent me a message. Actually, I have one of her testimonials is on my Facebook page, because I helped her get to the bottom of something that she had been struggling to get to the bottom of for years. And she was able to gain control of her life and live a better lifestyle. She likes to go to tractor pulls with her son. She likes to do all of those things. And she didn't have the energy.
Wow.
And she couldn't lose weight because she was struggling with something that was underlying. She had an underlying issue that needed to be taken care of. And it was Epstein-Barr is all it was, Epstein-Barr. The virus that causes mono. And there are like 5 different viruses that can cause that sort of problem with people. And then I've had other women that have
How did you detect that? Did you?
Blood work.
Okay, so okay, are we going to get to this, or? Because I think this is a key factor that a lot of people don't have.
Yeah, getting there. I have
okay, good. All right. I'll let you go.
Who had the same problem, and we had been working together for a couple of months, and she still wasn't losing any weight. And she has a lot of stress in her life. So we were working on her stress, but it wasn't budging. So finally I was like, you know what, we just need to do some blood work. Like, you've done all the things, something is missing. And she had something that was off in her blood work, which we were able to correct in days.
Wow.
And she sent me a response that said, the weight is starting to come off. And I don't know if it was the tapping that you taught me, or dealing with the infection that I had.
EFT.
It's working. So, you know, and I don't care which it is. All I care about is that she's getting results. And the thing is because when you get stuck in that pattern, you really get down on yourself. And once you start seeing results, your mood instantly switches gears, and suddenly you're all of a sudden that happy person is back because you're being successful and you're not beating yourself up on a regular basis.
Yes, I love that, because what I know about the way we work is like momentum is a thing. So if you're in a shame, I can't do this, in a spiral, it's going to continue to spiral. When you get in, you shift and you get into that next level of, this is me 2.0, the spiral does go up if you follow that does take a little more work, takes a little more concentration and commitment to, that next level training and lifestyle and mindset stuff. But it is such a powerful shift when somebody makes that shift and they see results.
When your vibration changes, you attract more things to you.
Yes, you do, right?
Well, and I said that wrong. You're always attracting things to you, but depending on your vibration, you attract different sorts of things to you.
Yes, and you can be very intentional about what you attract when you take your power back, and when you feel like, oh my gosh, I actually do have the capacity to change my life. And I love how you include different modalities and the medical background and the practical stuff of like, what's going on in here and in here and also in here, mind, body, spirit.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing.
sometimes you need a coach because I mean, even as a doctor, we all tell each other this all the time. A doctor is one of the worst patients because they're always trying to diagnose themselves and you can't see the forest for the trees.
Right.
Because you automatically dismiss things that you shouldn't dismiss. And the next thing you know, somebody's like, have you thought about doing this? And you're like, well, I thought about it for a minute, but then and then they're like, well, maybe you should try that. And almost always they're right. You know, like,
Right.
have you run a test on such and such? And then you do, and you're like, oh man, I overlooked that. But it's because it's you. So,
right. And I think that's really powerful because like your story is you were trying to do everything on your own. And this is a thing, a pitfall that many people, especially women, think I've got to do it all. And when what we do is we actually end up pushing other people away. And you know, what's that meme that's saying uber independence is a trauma response.
Right.
Because we're afraid to be vulnerable. Like, oh my God, I'm going to be criticized or called out or whatever that is, or owe people, I'll be in debt. And it's like, women have been conditioned out of receiving and help and support and collaboration through this idea that the world is a competitive place.
Right. Well, and women always feel like they have to be doing
right
for everyone and
competing with men in that masculine energy.
Right. And when you have this whole persona of I've got this, I can do this myself, I don't need anyone's help. Guess who else hears that? The universe.
Yes, it's like Teflon. You have Teflon around you.
You're like, you got this shield, and you're like, have you seen that picture of that person with the big shield and all the stuff?
Right.
Their shield. Well, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, is trying to send you things. But you're sitting there going, I got this. I don't need anybody's help. How are you supposed to receive it?
Absolutely. And you've really softened your protective walls and through your work have just become somebody who is open to receiving.
Yeah. I cry at gift shops now.
You're in touch with your heart.
Oh my gosh, I saw something yesterday at a boutique and it just touched me. And I was just like, oh my gosh.
I love it. Isn't that so good? It's just so good to actually feel our feelings again, right? And, so carrying back onto like this work you're doing with people, and now they're coming to you and saying, I need help, and you're helping these women. What's the typical protocol? How does that work? Like, what would somebody do if they came to you and they said, I'm that girl. I can't lose weight. I don't know what's going on. I'm constantly tired or stressed or angry or frustrated or whatever. And I want to lose weight.
Well, I mean, typically we have a conversation, you know, I'd like to get a basic understanding of what your stress looks like. And women tend to underestimate the amount of stress they're under.
Right.
So, and then once they realize how much stress they're under, they're just like, wow, I didn't see that.
Yes.
And stress, just like trauma, affects your adrenaline and your cortisol levels. And when your cortisol is doing this, it messes up your blood sugar and your insulin is crazy. And you cannot lose weight in the presence of insulin. Zero. So it takes a little bit of talking, you know, we got to figure out what's the basic going on with you. Right. And then I like to know a little bit about what you've tried and what's worked and what hasn't worked and why you think you're stuck in the pattern that you're stuck in. And then depending on what we learn, sometimes I don't recommend blood work or diagnostic testing right out of the gate. Sometimes I wait a few weeks because I need to get a better feel of where you're at and where you're going. Because I don't want to spend people's money on a bunch of random testing that isn't applicable in their situation. So I like to be very targeted. And sometimes people say, look, I have a whole stack of blood work I had done. And I'll be like, send it to me. I want to see what they did. And then I'll get their blood
Wow.
work and I'll be like, but they didn't run this or this or this or this. So then
That's
we go
amazing.
back and run
Uh-huh.
those 5 tests that weren't run. And
Hmm.
usually the hidden secret is in the
Right.
5.
Then you have a full picture
Yeah.
rather than just a bunch of puzzle pieces missing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So it sounds like one of the things is you develop a relationship, and as you and I both know, that is like the key to like a lot of growth here. So you're developing a relationship, you're getting to know these people, you're building trust, and you're actually getting the full picture of this human being on the other side of the phone
Yeah.
who probably hasn't really had a whole lot of somebody hear me, somebody know me. This is me. Creating a safe space.
Right. And I think, that's a lot of it. A
Yeah.
lot of women tell me, it is so funny. I have had several women tell me who have a partner, either a boyfriend or a fiance or a husband or whatever. And I'll ask them, have you spoken to your significant other about the way that you feel? And their answer is almost always no.
Right.
And I'm like, can I ask you why you haven't done that? And usually the answer is, I don't know. I don't feel like I can. And the reason for that is they're afraid that if they tell their partner how they feel, that it will be rejected, that they won't be heard. And most of the time, I mean, because I've gotten to know these people, right? And I've heard the wonderful things they've said about their spouses. And I'm like,
Right.
from what you've told me about your spouse, I have a funny feeling that if you asked him to have a conversation about this, he would probably be open to it. And 99% of the time they are. And they come back to me and they're like, I am so excited. I just had a conversation with my husband about my stress level, and he had no clue that I was as stressed out as I am. And he took 3 chores that I normally do, and now he is doing them. And I'm like,
I love how you just walked through that, because I bet there are so many people who could just watch that to say, wow, that's true. I am afraid to say anything to whoever the people are in my life. That is truly, really what's going on.
Doers. And, the most important piece of information I ever got from a supervisor when I worked, I used to be a plant manager at a factory, an assistant plant manager, whatever you want to call it. And he told me one time, he was like, listen to me. If you don't learn how to delegate responsibility to the people that work with you, you are going to drive yourself insane. And I was like, delegate, like, explain to me what you mean by that. That's foreign to me. I raised a child by myself.
Yep.
And she wouldn't even do chores. So delegation of something was impossible. I was like, I can't wrap my head around that concept. I was very young. I was like 25 years old. And he was like, you're brilliant and you can do so many things. He said, but you can't do it all. So if you would start giving some of these tasks that you're doing on a daily basis to other very capable people to do them, then you would have more time to do other things. And I was like, first of all, I can't do that. If I can't trust anybody to do it as good as me.
What are some of the other reasons? If I hand over responsibility, if I ask people to do things, I'm being a bitch, I'm asking for too much, I will be viewed as like incapable.
Right.
They
or
won't
lazy or passing the buck. Right.
I remember a conversation you and I had where you said, oh my God, I just realized I consider people who give themselves time to exercise as or something about
I said I judge them. I judge people that take time to exercise.
Right.
Like, how could you possibly take time to do something for yourself?
Right. So how could you delegate certain tasks? And now you understand the power, because you can go into your creative zone and do what you're here to do.
I mean, even if you consider the manager side of that, if you're so busy, I literally knew every piece of inventory. Somebody could walk up to me in the factory and say, how many of this do we have? And I would say 7.
Wow.
And they would be like, okay, where are they? And I would be like, I would tell them exactly where they
Oh
were.
my God.
So I was
Yeah.
in charge of inventory and shipping and receiving. So I
Whoa.
knew where everything was. I knew all of it. And I mean, I didn't need to know all of that.
No, you did
My
not.
response should have been, look it up in the computer.
Right. Yes. Or ask this person who's in charge of that.
Or go count it. I don't know. But instead, I knew all of that. And at one
Right.
point, when I was around the age of 24, 25 years old, somebody asked me what my phone number was, and I didn't know it
Mhm.
because I had so much other stuff in my head. I was
Mhm.
like, I don't know. I had
Mhm.
to ask somebody, what's my phone number?
Yeah. That's wow.
Yeah. I had too many numbers and facts and figures and inventory and which orders were due on what day. And it was just
Mhm.
so many things going on in my mind. And I was worried about this person needing to be off on Friday because they had to go do something with their kids. And this person had a sick child. And
Wow.
this,
So you're
you know,
taking on everybody else's energy and never carving out that space for you and
right.
connecting with you.
And how much more effective could you be if you just had 30 minutes to yourself to not do anything? Right?
Yep. And back
That's
to the
something that
point
you
of,
basically had to like drill into my head because I was the busy person. I'm too
Mhm.
busy to sit. I'm too busy to think. I'm too busy to
Right.
journal. I'm too busy to go
And
for a
when
walk.
we're too busy doing small, menial, transactional things and not tuning into who we really are. And
Right.
we're really doing not only ourselves, but our families and the world a disservice by
Yeah.
not
Because you're not
really
present.
not being present. And so this go back to the conversation with your client who was afraid to talk to her husband, or the various clients who are afraid to talk to their partners. That is really, I believe, stems from, I don't see myself, so I can't imagine somebody else seeing me.
Right.
And when you can see you, you can really hold space for who you are and what's going on. Then you value yourself, and then you can show up in your relationships
Right.
with that
Well, and when your
sensibility.
identity is wrapped up in being the fixer of all things broken,
Yeah.
how could you possibly go to someone and say, I need help?
Right. How
It's
could
your
you?
identity. You're
I've struggled with
literally
this.
having to carve off a piece of yourself. So me showing up and saying, I am overwhelmed, I need help with this, was actually showing weakness. And me
Mhm.
giving a duty to someone else to do, even though they were fully capable, was taking something away from me. It was taking,
Mm.
it was damaging my ego, because
Yeah,
my
right.
ego was this big, like, I got this, I'm great, I can do it all, I got no problems, get out of my way. But honestly, the real me was being protected by this ego, and the ego doesn't want to give things up. The ego wants to keep you where you are because it's all about control and it's all about protecting you. And when you learn to crack open that ego shell and let things out, first of all, you'll find that people are happy to help. Sometimes
Yeah.
they're actually excited to help, depending on what it
Mhm.
is that you're asking them to do for you. I mean, your husband's probably not going to go, I love taking out the trash, let me do that for you. But he might say, I completely understand, and I'm happy to
Mhm.
make sure that the trash is taken out every day. You know,
Yeah.
like, you have to figure out a way to do it. But giving up something for someone else to do doesn't take away from who you are. It actually gives you a minute to breathe and be more of who
Be
you are.
more of who you are here to be. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
couldn't agree more. And so you were saying that that's one of the things you do is you have those conversations with your clients. You really get to know them. You help them reframe why they're struggling, suffering in silence. And I love that you can help people shift and to learn how to ask for help from the people who are in their lives, who love them.
Right.
And so then as you're getting to know them, sometimes you'll run blood work, sometimes you will just work on mindset shift and connection stuff like EFT tapping. And where does it go from there? Like, what does it look like for somebody who is working with you and having a transformation? Because I know it's not just about losing weight. There's so much
No,
more.
I mean, in all honesty, it starts out with that being your main goal.
Yeah.
But by the time you get through all of that stuff,
Yeah.
the weight loss is just a happy side effect because you're becoming the person that you are supposed to be, and your confidence starts to come back, and your purpose begins to show again, and you learn to set realistic goals for yourself, and you learn to make micro changes in your lifestyle, not massive changes. Like, I don't ever have somebody come in and I go, okay, I want you to immediately stop drinking coffee and run 5 miles a day, because people won't do that. They can't do that. But if you can start to make little shifts, like drinking enough water and getting enough sleep and taking some time to be quiet with yourself each day, those things alone.
It's all about the basics, right?
And then of course I give people the information of how to eat nutritionally, to do better, to feel better, to make those lifestyle changes. But like I said earlier, most of the women that I work with already know how to lose the weight. It's that they don't know how to keep it off.
Right. Because that's a deeper relationship with your body, with yourself. Yeah. And I mean, you're absolutely radiating and amazing what you are doing and how you are helping your clients in a way that they've never really been able to access before. And I would love to ask, like, how can they find you? Do you have something that they can take away?
Yeah,
because I know it's so much more than just the weight.
For sure. So I have a freebie that I gave you to give access to everyone.
Which we'll put a link here.
It's just a little brief handout that explains a couple of things. I don't even remember which one it was now. I think it was the how to have your coffee and wine. I think.
Oh, okay. I don't actually
I don't remember.
I don't know either. I don't remember either.
I have
I know you gave us a couple.
Yeah, I'm actually building my website right now, and it's got some freebies on there, and it's AnnetteCopeland.com. Feel free to go there and go
put in the links.
To the dashboard, and there's a few freebies on there. There's also a little paid brief lifestyle change booklet that people can do. But if you're interested in digging deeper, or just having like a short conversation with me to see if I'm somebody that might be the person you're looking for to help you, then I'm always open to talk to people on the phone, just 10 or 15.
So people can schedule a call with you. They can download your freebie. They can go to your website, and we'll put links to all of this here
right on my website. It's all right.
I also want to point out that you're accessing your Brilliance guided meditation that you sent me months ago that I absolutely love. I mean, it is a whole situation.
I love that one. It's one of my
favorite. Is that free on your website?
It is, yes.
Okay.
And that one of the reasons that's my favorite is because it takes some of the meditation skills from Shad Guru, who is he's an Indian guy that does a lot of like really cool meditations and stuff. But it's great because it actually like makes your muscles relax. Like physically makes your muscles relax and puts you into a much more relaxed state, so that then you can do the meditation.
Can access your brilliance.
Right.
That's where our brilliance is, our genius. And your voice is amazing. I mean, I don't know. I don't think you've shared. You have some training in that, right? And,
well, I used to sing in a band, but
okay. Yeah. I mean, your voice is amazing. It's very soothing, and the pacing, everything about that meditation, because I'm not always a big giant fan of guided meditations.
Well, and I think it really helps that I was on a radio show for a couple of years.
Oh my God, there's a lot going on in there. Wow.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I've actually had people come up to me in the grocery store before and go, "Aren't you that girl that's on the radio?" And I'm like, "How did you know that?"
Right?
They recognize my voice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Got a lot of stories in there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Honestly, I have lived a very full life. I've scuba dived, I've traveled all over. I've done so many
You're on
amazing things.
stages and those
Yeah.
seminars. I
Yeah.
mean, wow. And
Oh, yeah.
now,
I've
and
spoken to large
now
groups of people. I mean,
it-
it's, and I just,
2.0.
I had somebody ask me one time when I was getting on stage to sing in a biker bar in Tejeras in the mountains in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He was like, "You don't drink." And I was like, "No." And he goes, "How do you get on stage and sing?" And I said, "How do you get on stage and sing while you're drinking?" And he was like, "I couldn't do it without the alcohol." And I said, "I can't do it with."
Wow. Mm.
It was not an option for me. I was not going to slam 3 beers and then get on stage and be tone deaf
Right.
and sing in front of people. I wanted
Right.
it to be a good experience for myself and for all the people that were there to have fun. So being a slobbering drunk and singing into a microphone is not my idea of offering value. So I was like, I don't know how you do it with. So
That's amazing. And I know through talking with you, you've really, really become somebody who really doesn't need to drink anymore, that because you're not operating
I
on
just
those
am
hormones
not
of
available
stress.
for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I will, like, if I go with a bunch of friends to a restaurant or something, I'll have a
Mhm.
glass of wine.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm against drinking,
Right.
but drinking to excess has no place in my life at this point. And
And drinking to escape and soothe the
exactly,
constant stress.
exactly. Yeah. When
You
you get off
meditate for
work
that
and
now.
you think to yourself, oh my God, I need a beer.
Yeah.
Do you really? Maybe you
Right.
just need a few minutes of silence and some tapping techniques.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. And
Yes.
I've kind of got a twist on the old tapping method. So
Ooh.
I've taken a whole bunch of different tapping things that I've learned throughout the years. And
Uh-huh.
it's really cool. I never did tapping because it was too complicated. It was too
Mm-hmm.
complex.
Mm-hmm.
And as
Ah.
you well know, overwhelm was my biggest problem. I was overwhelmed
Mm-hmm.
in every
Right.
area of my life. And I just wasn't willing to learn another thing. I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
can't learn this. It's too hard.
Yeah.
And I've seen a few different people recently that have like a different take on the whole process of tapping. And I kind of started like playing around with it. And I found that you can't really mess it up.
I love that. I love that because people are so
Yeah.
afraid to do things
So if you've
often
been
because
thinking
they're
about
afraid.
doing some tapping, try to
Mm-hmm.
throw away the rule book and just do it. Just do it. And if you need some
Mm-hmm.
guidance, you can talk to somebody like Gina or me or someone else that you know that is already doing it. But
Yeah, and
throw away the rule
I
book.
did an interview with somebody who is a tapping coach, Elizabeth Wolter, in here, and so people can find that. But
Yeah.
I love, it's so true. Like all the things, like meditation, tapping, journaling, all this stuff, you can't get it wrong.
No. The only way you can get it wrong is by not doing it.
Yeah, right. Like if you're called to certain modality and you're avoiding it, maybe there's something there. But experimenting and doing these things is going to go. It's just like following the yellow brick road of your healing journey.
Right.
And
Well, and
it's really
trying to make
amazing.
yourself better, trying to raise your vibration, trying to do all of those things is your every little step you take is getting you one step closer. And
Mhm.
your road might be a little rockier and a little longer, and you might be a little stubborn. Um,
Mhm.
so, sometimes it takes a little bit of coaching or a little bit of work. But
Mhm.
I'll tell you this, you get to do it until you get it right.
Yeah.
You never run out of options.
Right.
Let's try.
We're always
So
unfolding.
start now.
Mhm.
Start now and keep at it until you become an expert at it, because it's
Yeah.
never too late, but it's also never too soon. Just do it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you never regret getting help. And talking with somebody and having a coaching relationship is so powerful because it's like you can take a digital course, you can learn something in a book, but applying it and then go, I tried this thing, it didn't work, or I'm confused. What do you mean? like that relationship and having somebody to hold space for you when you're not being perfect and okay is so powerful. And it teaches us how to do it for ourselves, and also how the power of relationship and connection
Yeah.
is where the planet is moving to. We've been
Right.
patriarchal, we've been competitive and masculine focused, and now we're bringing in balance
Yeah.
through women helping women.
Well, and one of
We're
the reasons
evolving.
that having a coach, someone like you, to talk through it is, I wasn't even being heard by myself.
Right.
So I couldn't work through some of those issues on my own because I was literally so closed off.
Right.
And having someone like you to talk to that would not just like call me out on my shit, because that's not really what you do, but you would catch something that I would say and you'd go, okay, wait a minute. Tell me more about that. Reframe that. You know, where are you going with that? Because what you just said isn't true.
Right.
And I'd be like, you're right, it's not. And you'd be like, okay, well, how can we reframe that?
Yeah. Right.
So, you know, there's so many things that, I mean, I guess you could figure it out on your own, but why not take a shortcut if there is one?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I love that you have so many ways that people can access your work and do the stuff that's online. And then if they're called to spend time with you, they can get on the phone with you and say, here's where I'm at.
Yeah.
And you can
Well,
point them in the right direction.
Whole series of videos called Poop Talk.
Oh my God.
I did a whole year of videos called
Wow.
Poop Talk. They're on Facebook and they're on YouTube. So many
Oh my
of them
gosh.
talking about
Nice.
every possible thing you could imagine.
Wow.
Because I was like, everything is related to poop. And I mean, some of them are funny, and you can actually see the progression of my emotional state through those videos.
Wow. I think that is fascinating.
Yeah, because that was all through the year 2019, where I was going through some major stuff in my life.
Major poop.
Yeah. And the videos are kind of funny, but you can literally watch me change. I've gone back and watched some of them. I'm like, girl.
That's really fun.
Yeah.
That's really fun.
I looked like this when I started. And by the time I was done, I was a different person.
And now look at you now. Yay.
I'm back.
You are back.
Like I said earlier, I'm not back. I'm Annette 2.0.
You've evolved. You have evolved.
Never going back to anything. Only going forward.
No. Yeah. And so we're going to put the links to all the ways that people can find you, work with you, call you, watch your videos, download that accessing your Brilliance meditation, download your other freebie, which we both forget what it is at this point.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's amazing, whatever it is.
No, but one of the things I want to say about the meditation, if you're going to download the meditation and do it, don't just do it once. Do it every single day for like a month, every day. I
did it every day and I loved it.
And your mom
accessed a bunch of my Brilliance.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, my mom did love it.
Sometimes myself, I have a few of them that, and it's
your voice is good.
Once I started making those recordings, I have lots of them from other people, but a lot of times, like if I can't sleep, I'll go listen to one of my own recordings. It's so funny. It's like the sound of my own voice is soothing to me.
Well, there is something to that.
Yeah.
And we will wrap up in just a minute, but there is something to, and when I talk about doing affirmations and writing, creating that next level vision, blah, 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 not just journaling it, but when you make a voice recording in your own voice of what your life is in your next level, and you listen to it back, you access your own voice more readily, and you're literally programming your future into existence.
Yeah. And if you can do it with earbuds in, oh my gosh.
Yes. Right.
Total transformation.
It's energy, vibration, power.
There's so many ways to get to the root of people's issues. And they're, like you said, mind, body, and spirit. It all is connected.
All of it.
If you want to live a healthy life, if you want to create a healthy lifestyle, sometimes you have to drill down to different areas and ferret out what the problem is. So
Mhm.
maybe it's a hidden infection, a stealth infection that you've had forever that you don't even know you have. Maybe it's overlooked diagnosis of something. Maybe you have trauma that you're not even aware of, that you're just dragging around with you all over the place. And every time you get happy, the trauma pops up and drags you back into that sad place. Those are all things that will keep you stuck. And
well, I think it's really amazing that those are all things that you can help, because you've got your unique background, experiences, and education that can help people really hit all of that.
yeah. Well, and I have a huge network of doctors that I am friends with, you know, associates, and if I run across something that's weird, foreign to me, I have probably 1,000 doctors I can message and be like, hey, this is in your wheelhouse. What do you think?
You've got a whole vault. I love
You know,
that.
I mean, and I have all kinds of doctors that I can message, because when I was going through that program, I was basically facilitating the seminars every weekend.
Right.
All of those doctors that were going through the program, guess who they called when they had a problem with reading their blood work? Me.
Wow.
So I would help
All
them
right.
walk through the process. And then if I didn't know the answer, I would find somebody that could help both of us so that we would both understand it. So not only have I been through all of the education, I've coached tons of doctors through how to do it themselves.
Amazing. Delegating. All right. So I would just want to say thank you so, so much for sharing all of this and sharing your energy and your radiance with my audience. And we're going to download this video, and it's going to be available on YouTube. You can share it with anybody you want. And most importantly, anybody watching this who says, hey, I need some help, we're going to put all the different ways that you can find Annette, either watch her videos, download her meditation, get on the phone with her and start a conversation, and maybe get to the root of some of your challenges to yo-yo dieting and patterns. So thank you so, so much.
Make 1% changes.
Tweak the little tweaks.
Like think about a plane or a boat. If a boat's going in this direction and it makes a 1% change, it doesn't seem like a big change right now, but later down the line, it is a huge change.
The whole trajectory, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Little tweak.
All right. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate it.
I enjoyed this. I could talk all day.
So much fun. So much fun. I know I have to go eat. My intermittent fasting window is about to open.
Woohoo!
I know. And then I'm going to the gym doing those little tweaks. All right. Thank you, Annette. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.